Welcome to Masters of Masking, the podcast for and about those who've discovered their neurodivergent later in life. Join us as we dive into the lives of individuals with autism, ADHD, CPTSD and more. Hear their stories, learn about their challenges and celebrate their triumphs. Living, loving and thriving in their unique everyday lives. You're not alone, let's unmask the extraordinary together. Masters of Masking, tune in and embrace the journey. Hello everybody, this is an exciting session for me this morning because I've been waiting for a couple of weeks now to chat with Louisa since she booked in her session, and I really love what she does because it's something that I certainly have needed throughout my life. But let me introduce you. Louisa Willcox is the CEO and founder of Let's Get Wealthy, a financial education business. Her mission is to teach financial literacy to as many high-achieving ADHDers as possible. She's also a financial wellbeing speaker for corporates with over 15 years experience in the financial world. Hello, Louisa.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. So let's jump straight into it. Masters of Masking is a podcast specifically for people who have discovered later in life that they are neurodivergent.
Yep.
And they've potentially come through the route by having their children diagnosed, or they found out, whichever way it is. And this is what I really want to bring this to the world so people can let their stories out. So tell me your story. What brought you to your conclusion that you were neurospicy?
It was very much like what you've just said. Going through my son's diagnosis, I was filling in the form, and as I was going through, I realised that I was ticking off every single box for myself. It was that moment of, oh, okay, that might explain a few things. And then I kind of got talking to some people who were quite close to me, and I was a bit like, I think I might have ADHD. And it was very much a case of, yeah, well, that's not really a surprise. And I think since I've kind of gone more into this world, I have very much realised just how ADHD I am. And, you know, I've said just before we started recording, my eldest son, because he was born with cerebral palsy, we've just, after a 2.5 year wait, because it's a long waiting list, we've just had his diagnosis and actually he's been diagnosed with autism. And so for myself, I'm still kind of very much exploring as to actually where I fit, whether it's ADHD, autism, whether there's a mix of the two. And that's actually something I haven't really even discussed fully yet. I just sort of looked at my husband in the meeting as he was like nodding along and looking at me, and I was like, okay, yeah, I know like most of this is literally me. So to be fully transparent, I don't quite yet know where I fit, but as we are all aware at the moment, it's probably going to be another 10 years before I actually get any kind of diagnosis. And as we're talking, I've actually got the forms that I filled out online sat next to me, and they've been sat there for about a month, all filled out, ready to go to the doctors. And I've been talking to my doctor about doing it all about a year ago. But the funny thing with having this is, which I don't get, to be able to get diagnosed with ADHD, you have to fill in a form. You then have to get to the doctors and remember to get to the doctors and actually start the process. And you know, we are a neurospicy household, very much so. I'm convinced my youngest son has ADHD and we're about to start his journey. That's a 27-page document, which I still need to get my head around after doing it for my first son. So trying to get down to myself is kind of like on the end of a long list, but there isn't a doubt within my mind that, yeah, I've got either ADHD, autism, a mix, I don't know, but it's very much there. And I think as I've been learning more and educating myself more, I sit there and I go, okay, things make a lot of sense now from when I was younger, a lot of sense. And even now, and it has helped me with my businesses and the way that I'm working in a lot of ways, that actually now I'm kind of accepting how my brain works, and that it can be a little bit mad at times and chaotic, and the fact that I've got 20 different notebooks of different notes, and then I can't remember what notebook I've put what in, and I get a new notebook, and then I go back to one and I go, oh look, I started this about 3 years ago. Yeah. So it's like I try to get organized in a system, which is something we were just talking about, but mine is very, very much about doing bits and tasks I find overwhelming, so I have to create lists, and I have to make sure I spend the time actually creating those lists, and if it's not written down, I don't remember it. I missed 2 meetings last week.
Okay. Okay, I think a question that came up when you were talking there, were you a financial advisor before you found out that you were, so you've been financial advising for like 15 years, you've been in this area.
But did you start just to niche with ADHD as once you've discovered this for yourself and your own family?
Yeah. So I've been, I'm to be with that. So I'm a money expert and I teach people how to look after their finances, but I'm not a qualified financial advisor under the FSCS. So it's very different on that. Like, don't go into detail with people about like, if you speak to a financial advisor, they go into a lot of detail about like life insurances, mortgages, and all of that. Like, I will teach people how to look after their money, what you need to be doing, the financial literacy side. But financial advisor is very, very different. But with that question, I have only ever known finance. So from the age of 15, I worked in the banking industry. And then I went on to become a bookkeeper. So I studied accounting when my son was a baby, and I used to go to college in the evenings to get my qualifications. And then I went into an accounting firm. And then I was made redundant over COVID. So I went self-employed as a bookkeeper, and that's kind of started my journey from there, really. So all I know is finance. And when I look back on my life, I've kind of always had a thing for money. I don't know why, but I've just always been interested in it.
Good. Sorry, I'm saying good there. I've just had a child come down and I'm like, why are you even here? Just the head might pop up and sometimes it might not. And this is like you said, we are also a very spicy household. So even though 15 minutes ago I said I'm going to do a recording, don't come down, that's probably been forgotten.
Yeah.
Completely.
I wouldn't even be able to do this if my children were home. It just wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't happen. Well, we've got quite okay, I'll let him off because the other one who I forgot wasn't here has just come back in as well. I may edit this out. I may just leave it there just because
it's life.
Yeah. So how do you feel? I mean, like you said, that things making sense. Everything that you said so far, I can completely identify with. And for me, it was one of those things. When I discovered I was ADHD, I chose not to get a diagnosis because I thought, what's the point?
Yeah.
When Asperger's autism was presented to me, that was when I was like, oh yeah, I need to get diagnosed. So that was my choice of how to do things. But when you were saying there about so much going on in the household and so many things to do, how do you notice that your spiciness affects your life and the household and the way things go?
I think just as business and things get busier, I struggle to manage. And my husband's great because he's had to step up with a lot of things. So now he does like the shopping list. He would do the food shop every week. He does most of the cooking. Because for me, things start spiraling out of control, and then I really struggle to get back on top of them. And then it's the overwhelm. Like I've just spent the last 2 weekends literally pulling my house apart and taking stuff down the tip because it's like my brain is kind of like overwhelmed because we've got too much stuff everywhere. And I think over the last couple of years in my household, we've had quite a journey anyway, because my eldest son, who has a cerebral palsy, he had a double hip reconstruction last year. So life has been full of, I spent most of the year last year in hospital with him whilst running businesses. So everything kind of fell apart elsewhere. But for me, it's that self-management of it all just falls apart at the seams and I don't know how to get it back, and then I'm just like a quivering mess in the corner rocking in a ball trying to hold it together for everyone. So yeah, I'm quite lucky that my husband, like I've had lots of words with my husband like, look, I just need support, I need you to do this, and he's really stepped up with that. So it's very much a team effort, I think. And like if I'm struggling one day, I go, look, I just can't cope, and he will step up and support me. And I think I'm quite lucky to have that, really. But part of what I've been going through myself over the last year is very much learning my own self-management techniques, and that is very much been a path of finding myself and who I actually am. And kind of, I've just turned 31, and it's kind of like I feel like I'm kind of only just stepping into my adulting. And yet I've got like an almost 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I've been a mum since I was 19. But it is, for me, it is very much like I kind of feel like now actually I'm stepping into that adulting and things are kind of getting more organized. But it just when I look back and I realize, like, for me, I really struggle in social situations. So if I go to networking events, I will be high on caffeine and sugar. That's my way of getting through. And I only realized that at a recent event, and I was like, okay, I'm absolutely buzzing. This seems to be my coping mechanism. So now it's like taking active steps to stop that. And then I end up being like a blabbering mess. And then you just like get like, everything, you just talk about everything, and then you walk away going, why did I say half of that? They're never going to talk to me again. And it's all these things. So it's very much just recognizing how I do things and going, okay, what can I do to lessen that? So when I go to an event now, it'd be like, right, I will pack, even if it's just packing one of those like porridges so I can make myself a breakfast in the hotel, and going, right, I need to actively make sure I have lunch and dinner, and self-managing myself.
Yeah.
But a big thing that I do is I go running and I go boxing. I have to do I tried yoga. Oh, I wanted to pull my teeth out. It was too slow. So I have to do quite high energy things. So for me, like running and boxing is great, because my mind goes on at like 10 miles an hour. Oh, 10 miles an hour. I'm on like the 10th sentence before I finish the first.
Yeah.
So I go on 100 miles an hour. That's the right phrase. And I kind of have to manage that by almost depleting my energy so my mind calms down, and then I can focus.
Yeah. I think as well, do you not find that this is my personal experience and from the people I've spoken to so far, when there's so much going on in the household and you do have to manage people and make sure everybody's okay, you just need to step away from that sometimes.
Yeah.
And stepping away from that, for me, I'm a bit like you. I remember the first time I tried, I'm 50, nearly 51. I remember the first time, and I'm a fitness instructor. That's where I started my life. The first time I tried yoga, I was like, what? Seriously? And I remember lying there, and I was probably, 20, maybe 25, 26 at the time. And it was just impossible for me to take my mind off. Impossible. And then later when there was other things came up and I was able to. But I also, like you, need to step away. But I need something to really I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. And people are like, that, what? But it works for me. And I can see myself and I can see my energy and that mental capacity to be able to deal with everything that goes on. Because I've got 10, 12 and 13-year-olds in the house, 3 boys. And to be able to cope with everything that goes on with that, they're not bad. There's nothing stressful. There's nothing terrible about it, but it's just the sheer existence of life.
Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? And I think as a mum anyway, it is, like, I hate to say it, but there's still a lot of pressure on mums. And I know, there are a lot of dads that do step up nowadays. It is changing, but there's still for us a lot of pressure and societal expectations. Like when I go to events, I've had people say to me, oh, well, isn't your husband good looking after the kids? And I'm like, what? I'm a working mum. It's like, what do you think I do when I'm home? I'm the one that does all the school runs usually. It's like, wow, I'm away for 2 days and let's all bow down to my husband, like being a dad. It's just, and don't get me wrong, he's great, but we have so much pressure on us as women. I think sometimes it is really hard to then mentally actually step away from that. I mean, I am very fortunate that my husband does a lot. He does an awful lot, and we are, as much as we can be, quite equal in a lot of things. But again, he's employed. I run 2 businesses. I'm self-employed, and the workplace isn't designed for that equal split yet.
No, not at all. And I suppose the other part of it as well is, he'll get paid holidays. He's got all of the benefits that comes with being an employed person. Same in our household as well. The employed person, although that they don't tend to like it very much, they've got a stability and a security there that when you're self-employed, you don't tend to have.
Yeah.
A question that popped up when you were talking initially. Have you cultivated that relationship with your husband? So have you been able to kind of step back and say, right, I can't do this. I'm overloaded. I'm overwhelmed. I need your help. Is that something that a conversation that had to be started? Or is it just you guys as a process of being together have managed to kind of meld into this team work?
Well, we've been together coming up 10 years, actually. I just need a medal, I think, both of us. But I think it's definitely a work in progress. And when you're with someone, it is a work in progress, because you're growing up together and you're finding your own path. And there is that acceptance of what you're good at and what you're not good at. And don't get me wrong, no, it hasn't been an easy journey. We've been through so much together over the last 9 years. I've nearly died twice through childbirth, and I had an I became allergic to nuts and went into anaphylaxis.
Wow.
I had an emergency C-section in my second, and my son, my husband literally had to help me care for me through all of that. And I mean, he did things that I never thought my husband would have to do. It's just, there's been so much. And then when just before COVID, I didn't know I was going through it at the time, but I went through a mental health breakdown. And that was when my anaphylaxis started, and and it happened overnight. So I was 26, I think, and it was 10 days after our ring blessing in the May. And I had eaten some M&Ms, went to bed, and I woke up and I couldn't breathe and had to wait for the ambulance and everything. And then obviously I got told about having developing a nut allergy. And I went from being able to eat everything to not being able to even put a slice of bread in my mouth overnight, because you do and even now, so what, I'm 31, so how many years ago was that? 5-6 years ago nearly. I am still waiting to go through the support with the hospitals to find out what my allergy is, to find out what I can and can't eat. And that's that's been years. So our journey together has been we've had family loss within that as well. We've both had quite big bereavements. So our journey together, we have grown together, I think, and we've developed over time. But yeah, it has been conversations of me going, you know what, this can't just keep being on me. And, my husband is 8 years older, and he's had a very different experience through going up to what I have, in the fact that he went to university, he left home, he went to Portsmouth, and he lived for a little while and then decided to come back home. So he's had a different life experience to what I've had, whereas I was a carer from the age of 10. I've never really moved out of the area. I've lived in different locations, but I've never moved out of the area. I've traveled a lot, but I was also a single mum, and I left an abusive situation at 19. So my life experiences to my husband's are very different, and we've had very different experiences. So then coming together and building a life together, it does take communication, it takes honesty, and we don't always get things right. And my God, we pee each other off like you wouldn't believe at times. But we don't ever really argue or fall out. But something, I'm a very independent and headstrong person. If I'm not happy with something, he knows it.
Okay.
He really knows it. I don't hold back. I tell him. And I think that for both of us has been a bit of a work in progress. I've had to go, okay, sometimes I need to hold my tongue and maybe not be quite so blunt. But I think now he's kind of accepted it, and he knows that when I'm at that point, I'm overwhelmed. And actually, sometimes I just need that, either to go for a run, I just need that half an hour, I need to just go for a hot shower, or I need that step back. But it is about communication. And if you don't communicate with each other, I honestly think you can grow in a way.
How do you feel, or has your relationship and conversation topics changed with your husband since you've kind of discovered that you've got ADHD?
Yeah. Obviously, especially with my son being diagnosed and me thinking, pretty convinced my youngest has got ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of conversations around being neurodivergent, and actually for me as a parent, the parenting side of it as well, it's been a growth, and learning about it, because obviously learning about myself, and who I am, it all comes into play. And we are both still learning how to best parent a child with autism, and how to best manage my youngest energy, because it can be hard at times. And again, for both of us, it is a learning curve. But yeah, we have a lot of conversations around that, and I will say to him, look, I'm not happy with this, I think we could do this. And it's I know when you get home from work you kind of want to relax, but actually it's not going to happen with our youngest, because if he doesn't go to the park for an hour, he's not going to sleep, and then we're up all night. And it's just, so there are still
constantly pre-planning and preempting, isn't it?
And we have to anyway, because if with my eldest, he's a bit better now, he's nearly 11, but if his routine changed, he really struggled. And then we'd get the attitude, we'd get the fieriness from him, but it comes from a place of overwhelm. So it's like a case of going, okay, this is what we need to do, and tomorrow we're doing this, but if something changes, this is what happens. I've always had that kind of quite close relationship with my son anyway, and I kind of know what he's thinking and what he says. I don't know how to explain it, but before he does it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always naturally tuned into that and been able to support it. So then it is going to my husband, okay, look, this is how it is. But yeah, it is. In our conversations at home, we've had to put a lot of boundaries in place, especially this year. And there's now people on the family side, his family side, that we don't have in our life anymore, because they were being very disrespectful, not only to me, but the children as well, and then ultimately my husband's too. So we've this year and last year had a lot of changes in just the way that we are at home and who we're allowing into our family circle.
Mm-hmm.
Because from my point of view, if someone is toxic, if someone can't actually be there for our children, can't be bothered to make that what's the word, can't make the effort, then we don't want them in our life. Because for me, I find it very difficult, because I'm an overgiver, And I know that, and I know we've all got things going on, but it comes to a point where you go, actually, this really isn't healthy for us and our family. And when it's affecting one of you mentally, that's not okay. So we have grown a lot together, especially going through this in the way that we're thinking and the way we're putting boundaries in place. But I also hate to say it, he's also, and I love him to bits, my husband is very aware that I'm with him because I want to be, not because I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not happy with something, I will tell him. And I would hope he would do the same with me.
Yeah. So the question that was coming up to me there as you were talking about this, you said about being a very, do you think the boundaries that you've found easier, that you've put in place this year, have you found it easier because it's been a protection method for your children? Would you have been like that previously? Because like you said, you're an overgiver, so would you, you were maybe a bit more of a people pleaser before?
Again, this has been a very much part of my own self-growth and journey of and things. Put it this way, I put up with being bullied by this person for 10 years before I put this in, 9-10 years before I put this boundary in place. And it was only when it started affecting my children, not coming to birthday parties, not making an effort, not even being able to do things for them. Like my eldest son had a double hip reconstruction last year. And if someone can't even send a text and ask how they are, to me, that's not someone who should be involved in their life. You know, that's the level I'm talking at. So for me, it was when the care wasn't there for my kids, but I put up with it for between 9 to 10 years before I went, enough is enough.
See, but I think this is one of the things that, so coming back to the title of the podcast, the masking, that's one of the things that we do. It's very much a people pleasing thing, because it's almost as if like, how am I supposed to respond in this situation? That person's doing that and it doesn't feel right, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just me, so actually, just go along with it.
I tell you what, it feels better now because I feel calmer. I actually get more hurt by it than my husband does. And it was when I spoke to him about it, because I've always tried more than he ever has, and it's his family. Like, I'm the one that's always tried, you know. And then in the end he said to me, he said, why are you trying so hard? He said, I don't care. Like, why are you trying so hard? And I went, because because I want them involved. They're your family. I don't get it. I don't get it, if you get what I mean. But then I've got quite a close relationship, I think, with like my own sister, my parents. But growing up, like and a lot of it I know now is from some of the things I went through growing up, like losing people out of my life, and not having a close relationship with certain parts of the family, and things like that I think for me now, I have tried to create this this family for my children that I didn't necessarily have. And I had a good childhood, don't get me wrong, that I have allowed it to happen. But it comes very much from what I've been through and me wanting to have that relationship. But then it gets to a point where you go, actually, it's a one-sided relationship. You're the one giving, they're taking and literally throwing it in your face. It gets to the point where you have to say no more. And it was actually my husband that turned around and said, why are you doing it? Like, why do you keep doing this?
Yeah. It's interesting as well how like the mama bear comes out. So it's like, we'll take so much for ourselves, but as soon as you've got to stand up for one of your kids, you're like, I'm not gonna let that happen.
When it comes to my kids, I am a mama bear, and I fully admit it, and I've got no shame in that. I've had to fight for my eldest son since I was pregnant, and I will always do that.
Have you ever felt the pieces of your life didn't quite fit, only to discover the missing piece later on? Unmasking Stories of Late Life Neurodivergence is a compelling collection of short stories that delves into the lives of individuals who uncovered their neurodivergence as adults. These stories explore the childhood quirks and misunderstood behaviours that now make sense, the impact of neurodivergence on relationships, careers and self-identity, the journey to acceptance, self-discovery and empowerment, the strategies and support systems that help these individuals thrive. Unmasking shines a light on the often overlooked experiences of adults discovering their neurodivergence, providing a rich tapestry of voices that resonate with authenticity and hope. Whether you're neurodivergent yourself, know someone who is, or are simply curious about these experiences, this collection offers a deeper understanding and appreciation for the diverse ways our mind work. Join us in celebrating the beauty of our neurodiversity and the strength found in unmasking our true selves. Each story is a testament to resilience, adaptability, and the power of knowing and loving who you really are. Discover the transformative power of late life diagnosis in Unmasking Stories of Late Life Neurodivergence.
Available now on Amazon.
You know, when it comes to your kids, yeah, it's been a long journey.
So, question then, your niche area specifically now, I'm nearly split into Spanish then. At the moment,
I can't help with Spanish.
Hoy en día, is working with people who financially with their ADHD.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I've always been a bit of a nightmare, always on top of things, always full on. But when it actually comes to, I'm like, oh yeah, that stuff over there, I'll sort that out later. And it always works out fine, but it's not the point, is it? What do you tend to find are the biggest issues that your clients come across, and how can you help them?
Overspending, without a doubt. The dopamine effect when you have ADHD is very real. And actually, I didn't answer your earlier question about niching down in this area. So I niched down to ADHDers because when I actually looked at myself and my business and the people I was working with and have worked with, I realized that about 95% of my clients had ADHD. So it kind of, yeah. And we do. I honestly believe, like, all of my friends then have ADHD or children who are neurodivergent or just getting diagnosed. And when we sit, like, it could be mad when we sit together sometimes, but you know, that is, and when I look at that, I go, okay, this is my calling, this is my area, and it just feels right.
Yeah.
And I think because of how I manage myself, and I'm good at finances, it's something I'm good at. I get it, which a lot of people who have ADHD don't, because it's the numbers. And I think the biggest thing is you don't need to be good at maths to do money. I am really bad at maths. I don't know my times tables. When my kids come home with maths homework, I go and ask your dad, because I don't have a clue. I would honestly fail it now. And we literally have calculators in our pockets. You've got accounting software. You don't need to be good at maths. And it's just, I am terrible. I cannot do mental maths. I've never been able to do it. And I'm with how my brain works. When I'm interested in something, I retain the knowledge like a sponge.
It's your hyper focus mode, isn't it? This is interesting. I really like this. I'm just going to absorb it and remember.
And I get it. Yeah, but if I'm not interested in something, don't ever take me to a pub quiz, because I will make your team lose. I cannot do a pub quiz. When I'm not interested in something, it goes in one ear and out the other. And I don't mean for that to happen. It's just I've got no interest and it doesn't retain in my brain. But money is something that for some reason I've always had an interest in. I find it fascinating. And when you do have ADHD, it can be very overwhelming. And don't get me wrong, I like to spend money. Amazon is dangerous for me because
it's the impulsivity of it, isn't it? It's the impulsive, the dopamine, like you said.
Yeah,
that, and then you could go, oh, shouldn't have done that.
But it's the self-management techniques. And it's understanding that actually it's okay to be in that situation, but you can get out of it, because again, you've then got the overwhelm, the shame, the fear that comes around it. And I hate to say it, the financial world is very mansplaining. There's too much technical jargon. It's crazy, and it doesn't need to be difficult. So it's about breaking it down into simple language that actually anyone should be able to and can understand, because we should be taught these skills at school. It is a massive failure that we're not. And as business owners, it's even more important we understand money, because you know, I think I can't say the word statistic, I actually said it, is about 9 out of 10 businesses fail within the first 3 to 4 years. And I honestly believe that is because of overspending and not being able to manage things properly. Oh, that's my dog barking, sorry. And when we understand our finances, it makes a huge difference to how we feel about ourselves and how we're living our life. But my business is Let's Get Wealthy. So I teach financial literacy, but I also teach about wealth, because being rich and being wealthy are two very different things.
Yes.
And I incorporate the way that I've been over the last few years into what I teach, because anyone can go and be a millionaire. Yes, it's not easy. But the fact is, if you want to burn yourself to the ground, if you don't want to have a life, if you want to destroy your health, go and be a millionaire, because you can do it. Put yourself out there, do it. But if you want to build sustainable wealth where you're looking after yourself, actually enjoying your life and all the rest of it, then you need to be looking after yourself mentally and physically. You need to actually go, you know what, I am actually living life as well as trying to look after the future and enjoying the moment. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everyone who's a millionaire has done that, because there are cases where they haven't. So it's not like a huge bad thing. If you want that for you, that's fine. But for me, it's about actually looking after yourself on the journey as well, and building that future wealth in a healthy way, because we are living today and you have to be able to enjoy it. but don't overspend, and know what your money is doing. And like when I was a single mum, it was really difficult. There was times when I literally didn't even make it paycheck to paycheck. I was working full time, I was on benefits, I was in a council house, and I had times where I couldn't afford to feed myself. And I didn't eat, or I lived off Weetabix because I couldn't afford it. And then I went from that to, at the age of 24, I bought my home with my husband equally. It was an equal deposit we put down. And then I've built my businesses up from then. So for my own journey, I like to share that with people and go, look, I've been there. I really do know how hard it is. Like my childcare bills were over £1,000 a month. I didn't even earn that at the time. It was crazy. And I know how hard and how crap it can feel, but actually that is only a moment of time in your life and you can make the changes. But the hardest thing is actually taking that first step and going, yes, I need to make those changes, and taking the active step to doing it. But it's about doing it in a safe way where you're not going to be judged, because there's no judgment from me.
And I think as well, the fact of not being judged, and you talked earlier on about boundaries with other people. I think me, certainly with my neurodivergence, my neurospiciness, I realise a lot of the boundaries I need to set with myself. So it's a case of, right, these are my boundaries for my self-care. These are my boundaries for looking. And I don't just mean self-care like bubble baths and meditation and stuff. I mean, everything in general. To do self-care for me is I have to sit down at some time during the week, usually at the same time, otherwise I won't do it. And I have to write my stuff down. I have to write the money that's come in, the money that's gone out. I need to keep a track of these things. If I can do it as I go, even better. But I've had to make that boundary with myself and make sure I stick to it before I can do anything else. And I think self-care, it's a thing about, and I don't know how you feel about this, we've talked about like activity in the house, your nervous system being regulated, and obviously if you're stressing about money, you're super dysregulated.
I think about 1 out of 3 people who suffer with their mental health is financially related.
There you go.
And it is financially related. We have such a huge statistic in the UK around this. I know. I actually had to edit a few of my podcasts last week because I literally couldn't say it. It took me ages. And in the UK, we are in a financial crisis, and with that, a mental health crisis. And I honestly think it's going to get worse. I mean, obviously, we've gone through COVID. Prices have been higher than ever, but we are in a society where everything is thrown at us to buy constantly. We are constantly overwhelmed with things that going, buy this, buy that. You've got, is it Uber Eats now that you can get Just Eats? And it's like, hang on a second, you need to strip some of that away. Go back to the basics. One of the things that we've done this year is we don't really get many takeaways. Like both myself and my husband enjoy cooking. But we said back in January that we would actually buy better quality food. So we go to the greengrocers, we go to the butchers, and that's one of our self-care things, is actually we eat better quality food. But yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but for our own body and our children's bodies, it's the long-term health side. And again, it's also thinking about the future. But do we have to make sacrifices because of that? Yeah, we do. Like, we don't get a Domino's, very rarely. We've had 1 Domino's this year. We don't do certain things, but that's our choices. But it's about being okay to step away from the norm.
The societal thing of, this is what you're at. But again, it comes back to the people pleasing, and the kind of like, am I supposed to do that? Like you said to me earlier on, I don't even know if we were recording at that point, about like the social anxiety and the social aspects. I mean, you're kind of sitting there and going, yeah, but is it normal to do this? Is it normal that people get carried out 5 days a week? We know it's not. But there's that like little bit of a question at the back of the head. And I think as obviously you carry on this journey in your process of like learning how your kids are and how you are, there's things like RSD that come into it as well. So you kind of
I'm convinced. I read a book. I read a book about RSD, and I sat there going, that makes a lot of sense now. And it does, again.
It does, yeah.
But I think what we have to remember is all these things are ingrained on us from a childhood. So it's mindset as well, because I do the mindset stuff as well. And when we go through the schooling system, what people have to remember is the schooling system was created post-war to create factory workers. We haven't changed the schooling system. And we go through, we put our children through the schooling system, which is broken. It's definitely not designed for neurospicy children. I mean, I've literally just gone for a 1.5-year court case battle against my local authority, which I won. I self-represented myself, and I won after putting about over 1,500 pages of evidence forward. to get my son in a different school because mainstream school doesn't suit him, so he's failing school. I mean, what a load of crap is that? Sorry. It's because school is an old, outdated system, but it is designed to create factory workers, to create people who are going to go and they're going to do as they're told, and they're going to fit into society, do these things to create more money for society. And actually, when you then step away from that, which entrepreneurs pretty much have stepped away from the norm, this is then the journey that we go on, and it's going, okay, maybe I don't have to do things the same. Maybe I don't have to go to that networking event and grab a glass of champagne because everyone else is. Maybe I don't have to do these things. And when you step away for things that work for you and look after you and your mindset and how you want to do your life, it feels so much better and more aligned, but you have to be willing to put those changes in place. So there are things I will say no to because it just doesn't work for me and my family. But we will do other things that maybe other people wouldn't. And it is about pushing those boundaries and realizing that we don't have to do all the things that we've been taught or been told we have to do. But again, that comes back to mindset, and it comes back to the habits and putting the changes on. And it does take time. It's not always an easy process, but it's stepping away from that norm and going, actually, maybe there is a different way to do it.
I think as well it's difficult with children because, like, I've got 2 batches of children. I just kick these batches of children out, you know. But I've got older ones who are 29 and 26, and they and I found it really difficult because back when they were younger, I was like trying to do a lot of the stuff back then, you know, you're cleaning up our diet, not doing this, television time, all of these things. And it was really difficult because they'd be coming in and going, Mum, you're a horrible mum. Why haven't we got any biscuits in the house? And it was like, because you eat them all. And they're like, but that's what they're there for. Yeah, but you eat too many. There's this whole thing about, like, you know, the sugar fix. And now we all know that back then we didn't realize. We realized that my younger daughter, she was born with a chromosome deficiency. So she had a whole load of things going on. But we didn't realize how neurospicy my daughter was, or the rest of us, to be fair. And both of my daughters got diagnosed later in life, but most of the stuff came from society. So they'd come home and go, like, I mean, one day when we moved to Spain, my daughter said, Mum, we've got to watch a TV program. But I told the teacher that I haven't got a telly, and she gave me a cuddle and said she was so sorry how bad she felt, and I've got to go to her house to watch it. And I was like, what? The teacher was like, and I was like, did you tell her it was a choice to not have a television? That, like, there's nothing interesting to watch. But that was a recurring theme from when they were younger, when we still lived in the UK and Scotland, to when we came to Spain. And it was very much a case of, like, they'd come home and be like, well, my mate said this, and it's like, that's nice. That in our house that doesn't work, because our house is a little bit different. And they get that now. They're older and they get that now. But I'm now having the same thing with the boys. They get it because I've talked to them from a much younger age about it, because of my experience now. But society's got a lot of pressure, and it is difficult with kids because they want to try and, well, so and so said this. That's nice.
It is really difficult, isn't it? It's about managing it, I think, and having a bit of a 50-50 with it, because I've got the same with my children. And you know, I don't have fizzy and things in the house. I don't like it myself, but then it might be that they go to a birthday party and I'll let them have it. But then when you walk around, you see children. Literally, I went to the park yesterday with my youngest, and there was like 5, 6 and 7-year-olds walking around with bottles of Coke. And he's like, well, why can't I have a Coca-Cola? I'm like, because it's not good for your body, mate. You don't need a Coca-Cola. It's like, I don't mind if you have some juice or some water. And it's like, but they've got it. I'm like, yeah, but you can. And they will be walking around with sweets and all these things. And okay, it's okay as a treat. But that's what it needs to be, is a treat. But it is, again, you know, it's become the norm and the ease. But I do think it's, again, very difficult because food is quite expensive, and it is cheaper to go to a supermarket and buy a load of frozen burgers than it is to buy, you know, just bog standard healthy food. But we've also lost a lot of the skills. I think they're not being taught properly anymore about the cooking, about all of these things. About healthy eating, about how to do it different, and we're not doing that anymore. Or I think they're trying to bring some of it back in. So there's a lack of education there as well. And you know, going back to the finances, it's the same. We're not taught how to do, like at school, financial literacy. It's a life skill that is needed. If we taught, or were taught from a young age, which, I mean, I was quite thankful. My granddad taught me how to invest from the age of like 7 or 8. So you know it, but we're not taught these things, and we're not taught about compound interest and about how it's the long-term side. When, you know, most people don't even know they can open up a pension for their children, and actually that would set them up, probably they'd be millionaires by the time they retired. You know, there are things that we don't teach, or people aren't teaching, that can literally change the trajectory of your life. And it's just, you know, the typical thing is, oh, you should leave school, you should get a job, get a house with a mortgage, and you should do this, have a family and do that. Well, actually, what if you don't want to have a mortgage? Well, how can you look after that money? Do you invest it? And it's okay not to want to have a mortgage. I was told, and don't get me wrong, I have a mortgage, I've got a house. And it was like this huge celebratory thing when I bought the house. But actually, what most people don't realise, because they look at it as an asset, it's your biggest liability until you've paid off your mortgage.
Yes, because it's not even yours. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not taught that. We're taught, actually, well, you've got a house, well done. Okay, yeah, the mortgage rates, but look at what's happened over the last few years. The rates went sky high.
Yeah.
I mean, we were quite lucky. We fixed in literally the day before they all went up for 5 years, but it is a huge liability. But then people aren't taught that, okay, if you're going to go for a mortgage and it's £600, you now need to redo that at 5, 6, maybe 7%, because actually, when you look at what happens within, within the world, it is likely that within the term of having your mortgage, the interest rates are going to go up. So can you still afford it if that happens?
Yeah.
But we're not teaching these skills. And I know people now, one of my self-care things is I go for a full body massage about every 6 to 8 weeks. I've got quite severe scoliosis. So with my body, it's very much a case of managing. I have to exercise, one, mentally, but also physically. I get a lot of pain if I don't, but it also pulls my muscles and destroys my body by doing the exercise. So I then go for the massaging. For it's self-care, it's my time for relaxation, but also it helps my muscles relax again, so then I don't spiral into a painful condition. That is my self-care thing. And I was talking to my masseuse about this because her daughter has just gone off to uni and gone and got a flat. They're not teaching children how to get a utility, what they need to do with their utilities, the fact that actually they've got to then plan for shopping, the fact that they now need to budget, the fact that they might actually need to get a part-time job to fund the fact that they're at uni. They don't know how to do council tax. What does any of it mean? These things aren't being taught.
Yeah, I remember my eldest daughter, who's now 29, she moved back to the UK when she was 18. And I had a very surreal moment that she was on the phone one day crying to me about her council tax and the mess that everything was in, and whilst the other one was like, "Mom, can you come and wipe my bum, please?" And I was like, how am I in this situation of one crying about her council tax and the other one's asking me to go wipe his bum after being in the toilet? But yeah, and it is, and we did, she spoke to me about it because she's like, what did you do? So she knew that there was an issue there, she knew that we had to sort stuff out, but like that, she's like, I've never had this experience before. I knew you had to do it, but I've just never. And so when my younger daughter had come back to live with us for a while in Spain, and I made a point of stupid that was my younger daughter's the one who's got more, she's got ADD, so she's a bit more the process of doing stuff with her is slightly harder, and I made her a works contract, and how much we were going to give her and how much she was paying in rent and all of those, and people were like, that you're really hard. And I was like, but she needs to learn, and this is the only way I know how to do it. And that was what we did, and we did everything in contracts and everything was written down. And she's been living with other people, but she's just got her own place, and she's like, that really stood me in good stead. It might have seemed harsh at the time, like, well, yeah, my daughter's just moved back in with me, she's 19, I've given her a works contract, but it's her ADD was such that to get something through, you had to slap her in the face with a wet fish. It was like, are you paying attention to me? And that worked. And
I think it's really important now that we do start doing more of these things, because we are in a we're in a digital age, technological, whatever the word is, you know what I'm trying to say. And, again, going back to the Amazon thing, is a one-click buy.
Yeah.
And it is so dangerous because, again, those of us with ADHD, it is so easy. And then you get stuck in that dopamine hit. And when you're having a really low day, your brain actually gets a dopamine hit through buying. But then when it starts declining again, what happens? You go and buy something.
To make yourself feel better.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you find that hit somewhere else? So for mine, it's exercise. I feel good after exercising. Again, some people with ADHD, it's eating. Again, that's a completely different thing that you then have to self-manage. And so it's like, okay, well, what is it? What is my condition? How is it affecting me? What can I do to manage that? And that's kind of why I work with a lot of ADHD entrepreneurs, because it's those self-management skills, and it's taking it and doing over a set amount of time. I absolutely hate the coaching world sometimes, because I have been working with a lot of coaches over the last few years. I invested heavily in my businesses. I'm very proud of that. I've gone on the last 2 years, I've gone on a huge learning journey within myself, within my knowledge, within my businesses. But what annoys me is you pay like, you know, a few £1,000s to work with a coach, and it's as if you don't exist the rest of the time unless you've got that 1 hour with them.
Right.
It just doesn't work. When you have ADHD, it doesn't work. I know that if I want to ask something at Sunday at 9 o'clock at night, if I don't send it, I will forget. So I do message people and I go, look, it's Sunday, don't reply. But if I don't send this to you, I'm going to forget in the morning. I have to send it to you. And I will do it. And I've accepted that's how my brain works. But I will sort of pre-warn people and say, look, this is how it works. But it's about having that support as well, and going, actually, when you have ADHD, you need a longer support, because yes, you can go and do a course, but you need to have someone there helping you. You need the ability.
It's the implementation of the stuff. It's like when I work with people, I do a lot of like trauma release work and going back and fixing things from the past now, and I use hypnosis and various other bits and pieces. But what I've noticed, like you, a lot of my clients are neurodivergent, and of course what would happen, one session's wonderful, but then you're like, well, why don't you use the tapping that I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And they need the implementation process. They need the implementation of being helped to implement their boundaries, because they go, okay, I've got all these non-negotiables now. And it's like, right, okay, how is that fitting into your world? Oh, I don't use them with anybody because, well, like, and it's like, this is what this is about. So I started to my minimum working with people really is 3 months, because I know, especially if they're neurodivergent, because I know that for myself. Like, it's like, yeah, I've got that set up. Have I done it this week? No, because this week just seems like it's passed in 5 minutes. Time just goes on.
And sometimes you just forget. You don't mean to. Like, I know what I need to do, but I will sit there and I'll get to like 9 o'clock at night and I'll go, oh, I haven't done that today. And yet it's like, I know that's like one of the first things I need to do. And don't get me wrong, I would have done most of the things on my list, but I haven't done the regular stuff you're meant to be doing every day when it comes to business.
I think this is also part of the masking stuff that I've discovered about myself, and the nervous system regulation. Sometimes you can have a list of must-have things that you have to do, but it takes so much effort to get them done.
Yeah.
And it's so tiring that then you're dysregulated before you even start, because you're having to put so much effort in the night before. Right, I'm going to write my list the night before, then when I go to sleep, I'm going to get up in the morning, and then if anything else happens that throws you off you're screwed.
That's what happened to me last week. I missed 2 meetings, which is the first time this year I've done that, actually, and it's really embarrassing. One of them was just like, I've signed up to this NHS healthcare check thing that they're just doing like studies on, and I was meant to go to have some blood tests done last Monday at 8:30 in the morning, and in my head it was fine. My husband was taking the children to the holiday club and I was going to get straight in the car and go. I completely forgot. Like, and it wasn't actually until the weekend and I went, oh, that was on Monday, I forgot about that. So I've rebooked it in. I've got it tonight. So I've set myself an alarm at 5 o'clock on my phone, and I know when that alarm goes off, I've got to do it. I've got to get in the car and drive and go to it. And another one was I had a meeting on Friday with someone, and I started, because of my other business being bookkeeping, I was working on a client's accounts, and I started working on them at like 8:15 in the morning. And the next thing I looked up and it was 10:30. And you're talking, I hadn't even had breakfast. I was still in my pajamas. And then I went, oh, I'm sure there was something that I was meant to have done. And I looked into my emails and I had an email saying, oh, we have a call. Are you all right? And that was at 9:30. And I messaged and I went, look, and I was honest. I don't see the point. Like, I'd rather just be transparent. I'm so sorry. I just got so stuck into a client's account. The time flew. I just completely forgot. But the way I usually get over that is I will put it on. Like, I use Gmail because I get Ava in the morning, sends me a to-do list. So I have to write things down. So I have a paper to-do list, because in my head, when I write things down, I remember them. But I also have the Ava, which I find really helpful. So I prefer it when people send like a calendar reminder that goes directly to my Gmail, because then I will get Ava pop up and it'll be digital. So she will remind me, and this hadn't happened. So when I looked at Ava, I had no meetings, because it hadn't gone into my digital one, even though I had technically written it down. But my system failed on that day, and he was fine, and we've rebooked it. But you know, it is sometimes through that overwhelm. And at the moment, it's summer holidays as well, so you know, my working days are less. So I am literally cramming a whole week's work into 2, sometimes 3 days, which in on itself is just a whole minefield. So I have stepped back from a lot of things, and I'm like, okay, no, I really can't do this. I stripped a lot of it back, because again, that's where it comes. So those days that I am working, it is like, no, I have client work to do. I've got calls, I've got this, I've got that. So it's like self-managing that, because summer holidays are just another write-off, aren't they?
Yeah. And they're even longer here than they are there, imagine.
Are they?
Yeah, we get like 12 weeks of summer holidays.
Oh, that's a long time, yeah.
Yes. To take it back, I remember when I was at university studying, and at that point I was a mature student at 28, and I had the 2 girls already. And I remember one day they were sitting there going, oh, here she is, Mrs. Executive, she's all organised, because I was also running a business, studying, and I had the kids and working. And they were laughing at me because I had written every single day, put the girls to bed.
Yeah.
And they were like, why will you forget? And I was like, if it's not in my diary, it don't get done.
And you know what? Hyper focusing is so bad as well.
God.
Like I did it the other week, and my husband took the dog out for a walk, and I was going to get the kids ready, and then I started working on something. I think it was like my website or something, and then I found like this new AI tool, and I got really excited by it. So I sat there like creating all these videos. I was like, oh, this is so fun. And then he came back, and he was like, oh, the kids are not ready for bed. They were still watching TV and on their games. And I was like, oh yeah, I got really like distracted by this AI feature. So I've been sat creating all these exciting videos, and my kids were still like sat, and I was like, oh, I better get them ready for bed. And it is just so easy. Like that hour just went like that. And in my head, it was 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think it's the other part as well, is that there's a combination of the time blindness when you're interested in something, but I also the waiting for me. And I didn't know this before I discovered my neurospiciness, but I used to get really frustrated at myself, because if there was something, if I woke up in the morning and I didn't maybe have anything on until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I couldn't get anything done, because I was
I'm the same.
I was waiting for 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was like, and I'd be like, I've got hours. What is it with this? And I would get in a bad mood, and I get all of these things. Now I understand why. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I also have the reverse thing that if I've got a day off booked, it's not really a day off.
Oh no, you fill it with everything.
Yeah, but then I might still have an appointment at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's my Alexa reminding me for something else. I might have something at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I completely forget.
Yeah.
Completely. And my kids laugh at me because the doorbell ring, and they go, is it a client that you haven't told us about? And I'm like, no, it's something else. It's not a client. And then they've got, because they're used to it just being like, oh yeah, I've got a client now. Sorry. But yeah.
I do that though. If I've got something on and I'm not busy, then I really struggle. And it is silly, isn't it? So I have to, like you, I have to sit and organize my calendar. So if I don't sit and organize it, I will sit at my desk at 9, and I could be there until I have to pick the kids up, and I will be busy, but I won't get anything done.
Yes.
Or I will procrastinate. Like, I have literally gone and ripped a head up before when I had other things to do, but I just went and did it. And then I was like, well, why have I gone and done that when I've got all this to do? But it's because I didn't organize myself. And then it is going, okay, well, what do I need to do? And once I've done those things, that's okay. Like today, I've already checked off 2 or 3 things, and actually I'm waiting on other people to get information to me, which is really annoying as well, because I'm one of the things, and I'm actually in a mastermind at the moment, and before I signed up to it, I spoke to the gentleman. I said, look, I have learned one thing about myself, is that I work really fast. I don't want you to string something out over 3 months that you can tell me in an hour and I can get it done in half an hour. It's like, tell me what I need to do,
and I'll go away and do it.
Tell me when you want me to do it, and it'll be done. I was like, I am sick and tired of all of this messing around. I don't want to be mollycoddled. I want you to get things done, because I get things done quick. So I find it really difficult, and I have to restrain myself, because if I say to my husband, can you put that shelf up? I want it done 5 minutes ago. And it's like, I don't mean to be like it, but I really struggle to be like, well, why haven't you done it? Because it's like, well, I asked you to do that, you haven't done it. So when I'm like, I have to like set myself limits and go, right, no, it's okay. Actually, it can take time. So like, you know, with my clients, I've asked for information, I haven't got it. So I just send them a reminder, and it's like, right, okay, moves my diary around, but that's okay. Because I find that very frustrating because of how quick my brain works. It's like, it should have been done a week ago, mate.
Yeah. I've got so many stories like that about my husband from when we were younger. There was a kitchen floor once. There was a kitchen floor that was being retiled. 8 months later, I ended up finishing it myself. But you know what? Within a week, the washing machine broke. The whole floor got flooded, and all the tiles lifted.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's loads of stories like that over the years. So that was one of those things, and I was like, okay, what do I need to learn from this? I need to learn that I just was getting too stressed about nothing, because it ended up without the kitchen floor being like that anyway. But
again, that's a learning curve, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you go through that on your journey. But my thing as well is I can get quite irritated quite quickly. So if I know we have to be out the house, and we might even just be like, we're not even running late, but if we have to be out at say 11:30 and we're not in the car at 11, I feel like we're late.
Okay.
Even I've got half an hour to get the kids in the car, and I'm like, why aren't we in the car? So if I'm not there early, we're late.
Yeah, but I think that is very much a thing for all of us, and those of us that I remember completely losing my shit if I was late for anything, like completely. I used to like shout and scream and get so annoyed. And obviously, as time goes on, you just go, right, okay, to not be late, I'll be mega early.
And then you sit there for an hour going, why am I here so early?
And then, but you will also, with the kids, you'll also start, right, okay, we need to leave in 10 minutes. Liar pants on fire. You need to leave in an hour. But if you tell them 10 minutes, they might actually get out the door in time. So all of these things we build in because we know we need to.
And so I was going to say, the funny thing with that is because my eldest with the autism as well, if he's doing something he's really interested in the morning, he'll be up and dressed by 5 a.m. going, Mummy, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, I'm in bed. Like, I haven't had my coffee yet. But when we need to be somewhere and I need him to get up and ready to go, he'll still be in bed like this morning. And I'm there going, mate, we've got to go in half an hour. I need you up. So we have that as well that we obviously have to manage too. It's so difficult at times.
Yeah. It's interesting. So coming to a close then, it's been wonderful talking to you. What would you say? What's the key thing that you help your neurospicy clients with?
Getting on top of their finances. And I know that sounds really simple, but it's really not. So money itself is simple, but it's not easy. And I think the thing is sometimes just admitting that you need that support and going, it's okay to need that support to manage it and get on top of it. And that's what I'm here for. So I don't judge people. I'm not one of those people. If you want to come and have a chat and figure out what it all means, I'm that person to go to. And I know I can show people how to get on top of their finances and actually really start enjoying their life, because money is for enjoying. And if you're overwhelmed and you're stressed and you're not sleeping over it, then get on top of it. Okay. So I'm very much that person that will help you get on top of your money and actually step into a wealthy life that you're enjoying. That's what I'm about.
Good. Awesome. Now, how the ways of getting in touch with you are all going to be in the details below. Is there any way that you particularly like to contact with people? Have you got any kind of resources or anything that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I can, if anyone wants to and you're happy to share, I've got a free money guide for ADHDers, which I can give to you to do, but I'm like on Facebook because Louisa Willcox with 2 L's, got a bright orange background as my profile picture. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm pretty much all over the place, to be honest.
Okay, we'll do that. If you let me have your free guide, and we'll pop that in the details as well, and then people have got lots of ways to access you. Wonderful.
Yeah, well, and that money guide will help you give you tips for your money as well. So
okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you, and it's been so nice listening to your the way life works out and all the little idiosyncrasies that come with being neurospicy. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys out there listening have enjoyed it also. And remember, any questions, comments, or anything to do with us being neurospicy and masking, we are here to answer questions and help. Okay, so thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on Masters of Masking. I hope this episode brought you new insights, a new sense of connection, and maybe even a smile. Remember, whether you're just discovering your own neurodivergence or have been navigating it for years, you're part of a community that values, understands, and celebrates every unique aspect of who you are. We're all in this together, learning, growing, and embracing our beautifully diverse minds. Stay kind to yourself, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.
Judith helps you transform your life by healing your past. Through nervous system care and self-discovery, she guides you on a path to a calmer, more empowered you. This work's especially important for neurodivergent individuals, as it provides deeper understanding and healing of the nervous system, helping to manage overwhelm, reduce stress, and foster self-compassion. Ready to take the next step? Contact Judith today and start your journey towards lasting, positive change. You can find more details at www.becomingyouinsideout.com.